Thank you again for joining Embark's Upskill series, where our team of NDIS navigators aim to increase the capacity of individuals assisting people living with psychosocial disability gain access to the NDIS. In this segment, we're going to look at the first planning meeting and services to request and advocate for when you're assisting someone throughout the process.
So what is a first planning meeting? As I said, a person from the NDIS will be in touch to organise the meeting, and depending on the level of complexity, the assessor allocated to the person will either be an NDIS planner for more complex cases or a local area coordinator for less complex cases. Remember, it's important to reassure the participant that this is good news and that you're just sorting out the details of their NDIS supports. Contextualize what's going to happen. Meetings usually go for about 90 minutes, and they're an interview style meeting between the planner, the participant, and any of their support network that they wish to be at the planning meeting. The planner will want to understand the participant's day-to-day routine, what they can and can't do without support, where the gaps exist in their support network, and what kinds of support they require to manage their day-to-day functioning. There are three types of supports that get funded. We have core supports, capacity building supports, and capital supports. Core supports are your supports with your day-to-day living. Capacity building supports are supports to help build your capacity, and capital supports are assistive technologies and consumable items like what's an example, like a walking frame or a weekly planner. So a couple of simple examples. It's important to have an understanding of the person you're supporting support needs. If there are specific supports you want funded, it can be helpful to bring information about the support to the planner, such as information about what category of support it falls under and a quote for the delivery of services. An example of this is a mental health recovery camp. It's not a common inclusion, but it is something that can be funded for mental health participants under their capacity building supports and is considered reasonable and necessary for someone with a psychosocial disability. But it's not necessarily something that the plan is going to bring up unless it is something that you specifically want to request. So sometimes, depending on the service, the NDIS may request further evidence to prove that the specific support is reasonable and necessary. It's important to prepare the person that you are supporting for the meeting. So run through what to expect, like we've just discussed, and reassure them that with your consent, you can answer questions on their behalf and ask them if it's okay for you to add information where you feel it might be necessary. Reassure the participant that there's nothing at risk, which is a common worry from my experience. People feel like they could say the wrong thing or they won't be able to represent themselves accurately. So it's important to just, assure them that there's nothing on the line here. You're not going to lose anything. You've got everything to gain. So if the participant is unable to maintain presence for the entire meeting, or their behaviours of concern or concern around the participant misrepresenting themselves grossly, then it can be helpful to chat with the planner beforehand to bring them into awareness so they can inform their practice. You can sometimes, I've had almost an entire planning meeting outside of the planning meeting because it was just going to be impossible for the participant to engage for more than 10 minutes. And, that 10-minute engagement is really, really valuable. However, it was helpful to get sort of most of the bulk of the work out of the way prior, so that way it wasn't too daunting on the participant. All right, moving on. Okay, so you can help to prepare someone for their meeting by obtaining a statement from the person you're supporting about their daily routine and their support needs. The planner will want to go through this during the planning meeting anyway, so it can be helpful to have this prepared and sent through to the planner beforehand or ready to be read out by the participant or yourself. You'll receive a pre-planning booklet where this information can be filled out. I've chosen to omit that from this presentation now, but it is something that you will receive as part of, or like once you meet access to the NDIS. So you can include the statement about the daily routine in that planning booklet, or you can just draft something up, or write something on a piece of paper. It doesn't need to be too formal. An understanding of someone's day-to-day life and support needs will really help to understand where the gaps lie, where someone needs more help and support. And this really brings us to the most important part of someone's plan, which is their goals. So exploring their goals, if they haven't already, you'll want to encourage the person you're supporting to think about 3 main goals that they can work towards over the next 12 months. Note that these goals form a huge part of a person's NDIS plan. They're effectively the foundation of supports, and you want to use these goals to highlight the support needs that aren't being addressed by mainstream services. You want to frame the goals around supports that are required from the NDIS, but it's important to note as well that no goal is too big or too small, and it's important for the participant to choose what it is they want to work towards with support over the next year of their life. Goals may be more practical and orientated around the facilitation of day-to-day living activities, though they don't have to be restricted to short-term or just activities of daily living. Goals may be short, medium, or long-term, and they can include your day-to-day, activities, but they can also be your dreams and your aspirations that exist outside of your daily disability support needs. So I like to contextualize for the participants that I work with that forming a goal is like reimagining your life. So if you could live your best life and be thriving every day, what would that look like? And what would it take to achieve that? Alrighty. I'm just going to look at some example goals first. So a couple of short-term goals might look like, I would like to freely and safely access the community and develop a routine which allows me to form new relationships, develop my social confidence, improve my diet, and engage in culturally relevant activities. Another one might be, I would like to maintain my tenancy by keeping my house clean and ensure I do regular shopping so I can prepare and cook healthy meals. So there we're looking at things like accessing the community, developing routine, developing meaningful relationships, improving diet and lifestyle, making sure that we're keeping on top of our responsibilities, ensuring our tenancy is maintained. Looking at some medium to long-term goals, they might look like engaging in paid or unpaid work where I can use my lived experience to inspire and support others. This could include or require pursuing further education to support me in this goal. This was actually a goal I developed with one of the participants I was working with the other day, not in these exact words. It was really, really inspiring to not just see this person focusing on what they need to do in their day-to-day life, like going shopping and cooking for themselves, but they were also really contextualizing their NDIS plan, for 5 or 10 years from now. If they can get on top of their needs and these day-to-day disability tasks, what are the kinds of goals that they can achieve over time? Remembering, as I said, each year we're going to have a planning meeting review where we look back on the previous 12 months of supports. We look at and measure how successful our goals have been. Have we achieved our outcomes? And then we look at what our goals might be moving into the future over the next 12 months. And after your first year, that's when it might start looking like a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan.